All right. I'm really excited about this today. This is going to be a great webinar. We've got a lot of good information for you, and I have with me three guys that can really help. They're going to answer your questions. Jeremy Dispenza, he is the director of sales at Lynx. Basil Larkin, I've known Basil for 30 years. He's now the senior VP of Hestan. Very colorful grills, and of course, Ryan Bloom of Urban Bonfire cabinetry, outside cabinetry, really nice niche company. So with that, let's get started, okay? I've been at Yale since 1986, and this is what an outside kitchen looked like back then. I actually had that grill, the Smoky Joe charcoal grill. We had that, a few fold-up chairs, and we're all happy. Look how happy we are. And then 10 years ago, one of my friends from Florida called me and said he wanted to get appliances and outside stuff, and he was having a hard time doing it. And would I sell it to him and ship him? I said no, because the damage rates are tough. So he rented a U-Haul, and he came and he picked up. And I thought it was very interesting what he bought and what he did. So I went over his house. This is 10 years ago, and this is what he did. For those of you that have been in other webinars, we tell you to centralize the sink. Totally different here. He's got the Lynx grill with the overhead hood, perfectly done, refrigerator, pizza oven, sink and trash chute on the left, right? And we're going to show you how to do all this stuff, right? Again, on the inside, we say sink first, but it's grill first. It's the first key takeaway is the center of every plan is where you're going to be, and that's in your grill, right? So I took this picture. And you're going to learn how to do this. This is the galley configurations, right? With as many appliances as you want, right? This is good design. Once again, the galley, a couple fans over it. You're gonna serve and cook in different areas. This is bad design. This is a outside kitchen they put into a house right next to a kitchen. We're going to show you why in a second. If you want to do warming drawer crazy, we'll even show you how to do that too. Let's start with our steps. First is your entertainment strategy. What is the space? What do you want to do? How do you like to cook? Now, if your outside kitchen's right next to your kitchen, you probably don't need as many appliances. The further away, to eliminate the back and forth, you might want to put more stuff in there. So really, what it comes down to is where's it located, how much space do you have, and what do you like to do, right? So take some time in thinking about that. The other thing is, I'm honored to have a couple people from Florida here, a couple of contractors. And this is pretty common down in Florida, but in our parts here in Boston, you got to make sure that whoever is going to do it has done it before, because you have 5 different grill types to choose from now, and anything you put on the inside, you can now put on the outside. You need an appliance store and a cabinet, some cabinetry. You got to make sure it's weather resistant cabinets, but who does it? Is it the landscape contractor, GC, combination of architect builders? Just make sure. We always recommend in everything is to check reviews before you engage any professional. So that's step 2. Now, if you're going to use your outside kitchen in fall and winter in Massachusetts, you want to cook for the elements, the wind and the rain. So for that, you want to build, probably if you're going to grill outside, you want to build an enclosure. But really what's overlooked is wind. If you've got a prevailing wind pattern in your backyard, you want to make sure that the wind doesn't blow the smoke into your house, right? So you don't want to do something like that where you're actually snorkeling the wind into your house. I happen to like this picture, but I think putting a garage door is just going to filter the smoke right into somebody's house. So we want to avoid doing that. Step 4 is the fuel types, right? You're going to need natural gas, or you can do LP and just carry it in and refill. You need electric for the appliances, for blenders, if you want to put a iPhone charger in there, and you need water for sinks and ice makers. This is what this kind of looks like, right? So you got to put that in the back of your mind before you plan. And we'll get to configurations in a second. Step 5 is lighting. And we were in the lighting business for 90 years. And we always teach task lighting, ambient lighting, accent lighting for a kitchen. You don't need to do that for the outside. We need to do is put task lighting so you can light up the grill specifically. Your outside lights on your house aren't going to do it because they're too glary. If you can run pendants over your on either side of your grill, great. But if you can't, Amazon sells those, and other companies sell the lamps you can put on either side. Because again, when you're talking about a pro grill and a sear, the difference between well done and overdone could be like 30 seconds to a minute on a sear burner, right? So we want to make sure we light that properly. You don't need task lighting to see by outside to eat. But here's a nice little touch. We used to sell a lot of this back in the day. These are outside. This is outside lighting tape. You buy it in rolls, right, with a transform, and you just cut the tape where you need it. And it can go anywhere, under cabinets, in toe kicks, under rails. Really good. It's really good pathway lighting. I mean, for rails, it's really good safety lighting as well. I recommend it. This is you'll get maybe $200 worth of lights right in this kitchen. Step 6 is venting. Okay. Venting, there's 3 things you need to know. First thing is, if you can have the elements where it's just blown away naturally, I always recommend that. But you need to put a specific type of hood over it, something that can handle the grease and smoke and the volume of emissions off your grill. For that, you need a CFM of 1,200 to 1,500. That's cubic foot per minute, or how many cubes of air go through the hood per minute. You need capture, and that's where everybody gets it wrong. Hood's got to be 24 to 27 inches deep to cover the front part of the grill you'll be grilling. And again, we're venting simply with straight out with gravity or straight back. You don't want to do anything fancier than that, right? So we want to do something like this, but not like that. That's only 21 inches deep. And that's going to create a lot of smoke in that space because it doesn't cover the grill. It's not deep enough. It's not wide enough. It doesn't have enough CFM. About 10 years ago, I was asked to consult for this high-end home where an architect and builder were fighting, thinking the blower would work. And they put in one of those inlet blowers and kind of a shallow hood. So rather than arguing, I just grilled a couple sausages and basically smoked the patio out. But something like that, when it was put in a chimney, it cost the builder $30,000 to fix. So remember, make it deep enough, add enough CFM, and you should be fine. Now let's get into the grill types, because each grill can do something. Not every grill can do everything. We all know Weber grills. Gas grills, the great thing about gas, they go up to temperature, easily controllable, easy to clean. The difference between a gas grill and a pro gas grill. A gas grill is about 6,000 to 10,000 BTU per burner. Pro gas burners are 25,000 BTU per burner. So you're going to cook a lot faster. The other thing to distinguish is it's got the infrared. Now, gas is diffused. When you turn your gas burner at home, that the heat's diffused. What infrared is a direct source. It heats the meat directly, so it's great for sear. You're gonna cook on a gas grill, maybe sear it on the sear burner. Lynx sells an all sear grill as well if you want to do that. Now, the knock against a pro gas grill is, what does gas taste like? You know, it doesn't add any texture or flavor typically. For that, charcoal will give you the temperature, will give you flavor and texture. What it will not do is it's not as easy to clean. It's not as even temperature. You got to add charcoal every time. Not as controllable. Kamados are a ceramic version of a charcoal. It can cook anything, but there is a learning curve to it, which is why you see a lot of these where you can get, if you want to cook hamburgers and hot dogs quickly without guesswork, you do it in your gas. If you want something with a little more flavor and texture, you would get a Kamado. Then we have pellets. Pellets are not grills, even though they advertise themselves as such. You're not going to get up to an 1,100 BTU sear on a pellet. Typically, it's 500 to 550. Great thing about pellets is you can add flavor to it. There's literally tens of thousands of different types of pellets. So if you want, say, like a macadamia, mesquite, I'm sure there's a pellet that'll do that. But what pellets can do is they can cook slow. it's the low and slow. So if you want to cook like a pork shoulder for 8 hours, some of the more advanced Traegers will have Wi-Fi. So you can cook over you can cook a piece of meat over a long period of time with tons of flavor to it. What it can't do is cook hot dogs and hamburgers quickly. Then we have a griddle. Griddles are really popular now. Anything you can do on a grill, you can do on a grill. Even more, you can cook. I have friends that cook rice on it, eggs on it, omelets on it. You know, I go to my favorite diner is in Watertown, The Diner. They've got a big griddle in back where they cook everything. You're not going to get the sear in a griddle, but you cook everything on it. Now, what you want to do is pick what other options you want. The popular ones are obviously side burners. If you want to boil your corn, cook lobster as you're grilling. You get warming drawers. Now, a lot of people put, warming drawers underneath where you can keep food without dehydrating it, changing its texture for up to 3 hours rather than keeping it on that second level of your grill. Then you can buy an asado grill if you want something fancy, and of course, pizza ovens. So you get your grill, you get your cooking options, and you can get your appliances. Appliances would be ice makers, refrigerators, beverage centers. They're all going to be UL rated. You can put sinks and faucets in there as well, right? UL rated so they don't rust out on you. Okay. So now you've got your grill. You have an idea of what cooking accessories, what kind of appliances. It's now time to put it in some sort of type of logical configuration. There's 4 different types of configurations. There's island, which is just a straight bank, right? This is a typical island like my friend in the beginning, where you have a grill. This one's got the grill. You got access for more storage underneath, trash sheets on the left, refrigerator on the right. Then we have the L shape. We're expanding it outward, right? You're putting seating on the left. Typically, you don't put seating behind it, so when you open the grill, someone gets blasted with a lot of smoke. But you have more opportunity for seating on that side of the L. You can put pizza ovens. You can put more products in there as well. U-shape, we're expanding from the island to an L to a U, which will give you more seating and more places for appliances. And then finally is the galley, where you would have a serving station and kind of a grilling cooking station. This is kind of reverse, right? Unless they're serving people in the pool, typically you would want the serving station where the people are on the right-hand side. And that hood won't work either. It's too shallow. But still, this is an idea of a galley. Just reverse it. Now, step 10. This wasn't even my idea. It was Ryan Bloom's, who you'll meet soon. Is once you pick everything, before you run anything, you want to chalk it off to make sure it looks right to you. Right? Is centralize your grill, add your accessories, put it in some kind of configuration, and see if it works. Maybe you practice cooking a burger with a warming drawer and going to get a beer from the fridge and see how that is. Particularly, so you want to centralize your grill and build outward from there. Next thing is materials. We don't sell countertops. The one that keeps coming up is decked in because there's no maintenance. But what you want out of your countertop is something that's pretty much resistant to everything. Especially ice and thawing, fire and heat, high UV resistance because it's going to be in the sunlight. And that's what you want from your surface. So you've got your surface, got your configuration. Now it's time for cabinets. And there's all kinds of cabinet solutions. When you get ready to assemble, you're going to have your cabinet people make it. Just make sure it's weather resistant because it's going to be outside. And for that, again, manufacturers make it. Probably one of my favorite is the Hestan. This is just an island. You just basically, if you don't want to do any measuring, you got an island. You buy their solid chunk of stainless steel and you put their stuff in it. That's a good solution. Lynx has got stainless steel cabinets as well that you would buy piecemeal. Some of your cabinet makers will have marine grade as well. And then you've got Urban Bonfire. They have very durable outside cabinets in almost every type of configuration. Is what they do. This is an Urban Bonfire kitchen, and they even do the slat wall where you can hang plants behind it. very advanced. This is their Southwestern series in their U shape right here. So last thing we want to do is we want to make sure we maintain it. You want to buy a cover for your grill. When the season's over, you want to shut off the power, gas, water, electricity, uninstall the mini fridges, especially ice makers as well. Cover it up so you can have it for next year. So here are your key takeaways. First thing is, what's the strategy? How are you going to cook? What are you going to cook? And what space are you going to cook it in? Remember, the further away, probably the more you want to consider. It's close to your kitchen, like in this photo, maybe you don't need as much. Pick the right helpers, good contractors, solve problems. Bad ones seem to cause them. Remind your elements, understand all your options, chalk it off, because you can always re-chalk if you don't like how you're doing it. Get some weather-resistant materials, and then remember to maintain it. You can do it. It's not that hard. This is very elaborate, but you don't want to do this, right? Putting a cabinet over an ultra-hot grill. But I like this. This is very simple. Everybody should be able to do it after watching this webinar. This is a grill, centralized. You got your burners on the right, next to your refrigerator. Sink if you have it in the middle, and just a configuration where your guests can enjoy you watching you cook. Remember, we want to centralize the grill and start from there. So with that, I want to say thank you. Keep an eye out for a recording that'll be sent. Our next webinar is going to be kitchen ventilation in about a month. If you want, we have a barbecue guide here. You can just, here's the QR code for it. It's all free, about 60 pages. And for that, I want to say thank you. I want to introduce our panelists. That would be Ryan. We've got a panelist from Lynx. Sorry, this is the first time doing it. Pat, do you want to take over for me? Actually, it's done. So we're going to answer some questions here in the chat. First of all, how you guys doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Great after that presentation. I learned a lot. Fantastic.
You gave me some of the, all three of you gave me some tips. Ryan, you did. I mean, I think 5 out of the 7 tips were yours. So
I love it.
Anyway, thank you. I need to get the questions. Okay. Yeah, by all means.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Pat.
Thank you again, Steve. Steve, we can still hear you. If you want to chime in, feel free. A couple of questions. So we'll dive into the questions we got during registration, and if there are any questions from the crowd watching us live, please just pass them on in the Q&A tab so we can dive in. So I'll dive into questions first here. This question comes from one of our folks in the cabinet space. They're saying, my main hope for this webinar would be to learn about the cabinet aspect of water and rust resistant materials, especially important in New England for us, and maybe any new products on the market. So I'll go around the horn here. Ryan, maybe start with you on talking about the importance of using of choosing solid cabinetry when you're investing in an outdoor kitchen.
Yeah, I think Steve spoke to it. I think, cabinets have a wide array of different materials and aesthetics and an ever-growing market of opportunity. I think that, there's no necessarily right or wrong. It's a question of what is best in terms of aesthetic and budget. One of the things, the question that you mentioned related to the waterproof nature of cabinetry, and that's a very interesting topic. There's, at a simplistic level, people think about waterproof is very good. I have a slightly different opinion on the subject, and I think that in outdoor context, being in the Northeast, Boston, Montreal, very similar, beautiful hot summers, damp, very cool, dark falls and winters. Something that's waterproof by definition has no airflow. And when you have even the slightest hint of moisture potential in something where there does not have airflow, you have a great risk of bacteria, mold, smell. The best analogy I can give you is think about an outdoor fridge that has just even a damp can of soda in it. It's unplugged, door closed for the winter. What is that going to be like when you open it in the spring? So I am in favor of weather tight, meaning you shouldn't get, if installed properly, water and rain in, but with some form of breathability, which we've engineered into our product to allow for airflow. And I think that's critically important for outdoor cabinetry.
Basil, anything to add to that point?
No, I mean, obviously, excellent answer, Ryan, as I expected. For me, I think I think part of the question, Pat, was that talking about the materials used outside,
Mm-hmm.
and that's extremely important to our company. Whether that is, Steve mentioned his presentation, whether it's what we call our outdoor living suite, which is something that actually was transferred over from our commercial business to our residential business. It's completely stainless steel, but the grade of that stainless steel is extremely high. I agree. I think it was one of Steve's last slides. It showed a whole outdoor living or an outdoor suite or kitchen completely covered, and that's important when you look at our stuff too. No matter what these materials are made of, I mean, people need to maintain them. If they're near the ocean, I mean, it's good to brush that off with some water, make sure that things are done, but make sure those things are sealed, as Ryan was mentioning, and let some of that stuff pass through and make sure that it drains properly. But I think the key thing is that the materials that you're using have to be of high grade. They've got to be 304 or better. I know some manufacturers even offer marine grade, which is fantastic as well. But if you're looking to really use this and keep this outdoors and do it right, you want to make sure that the materials, whether it's metal or it's aluminum grade stainless steel, like with Urban Bonfire, that the materials are high grade. Pay a little bit more so this thing's going to last and you're going to enjoy it. You don't want to be looking at rust and mold on this new kitchen you just finished.
And Jeremy, I'll throw it to you.
Sure. So completely agree with both points that both Basil and Brian mentioned. I would probably add that the finish of the steel or aluminum is very important. Maintaining it, as they mentioned, is very important. But also thinking about the product that's inside of the cabinets as well. And when it comes to the winter season, when you're not going to be utilizing the product, making sure that you use a good oily polish on it that's going to help maintain that aluminum and steel when it is covered. But they made some excellent points that I agree with.
Perfect. Thank you all. Next up, this is a question around maybe choosing which type of products to put in your kitchen. What considerations go into choosing whether to put, install a grill or maybe a griddle? There are different secondary types of cooking in the outdoor kitchen, right? So besides a grill, what goes into somebody making that decision for their kitchen? Jeremy, I'll start with you this time.
Yeah, so it's all about cooking preference. I mean, what are you looking to get out of your outdoor kitchen? And griddles are definitely a hot topic now. They're a lot of fun to cook on. Essentially, it's an entertaining piece along with a great outcome of different types of foods you can cook. Personally, I like leaning towards the grill myself, but it really does depend on what you're looking to get out of your outdoor kitchen. Now, one of the things that I find when thinking about an outdoor kitchen is you're trying to duplicate what you use in your indoor kitchen, and you're trying to make it convenient and fun. So I actually had a call with a client this week who the reason they use their outdoor kitchen so much is where they don't have to worry about the cleanup as much of pots and pans. So being able to cook on a grill, you're able to achieve that. Being able to cook on a griddle, you're able to achieve that. And, the outdoor oven space is definitely becoming popular as well with pizza ovens and then ovens that, of course, can turn down to be able to use outdoor ovens. So anything you can do in your indoor kitchen, you're trying to achieve outdoor if you have the space.
Yeah, great. Basil?
Yeah, great response. It's hard. Each person that goes first is going to get a lot of points. So great job, Jeremy. I think what he finished with and what I actually had, I took some notes before this webinar to make sure that I was prepared for what might come up. And I think the easiest thing for me to do when I hear a question like that is, and Steve mentioned it in his presentation as well, is essentially what you want to be able to do is replicate exactly what you love indoor, or really, whatever you dreamed of having in that indoor kitchen, now make it happen in the outdoor. And one thing that I had mentioned to Steve before the webinar was, and to people listening, is the design community is really talking about the outdoor room, or an extension of the house, the room. It's not even that term outdoor kitchen. It's almost like compressing people into a kitchen. It's really anything. As Steve's presentation showed, it's about lighting. It could be about fountains and fire pits and mosquito repellent systems and lighting. And you haven't even gotten to the fun part, which is the grills. As Jeremy said, I'm all focused about the grill, but I think the biggest thing to do is I wouldn't just put a bunch of appliances that are suggested. I would put in stuff that you're going to actually use. And I've seen, as the presentation showed, it shows a lot of kitchens sometimes with a lot of appliances in them, and in a lot of those cases, some of those things probably don't get used but once a year or something like that. So don't waste your counter space on an appliance you're not going to use, right? Make sure you have the proper area to entertain, to serve things, and the counter space to do that. And quite frankly, a lot of things that you can add on in the kitchen are things that can sit on top of the countertop, like a pizza oven, which is amazing. I mean, think about that. How many people on the indoor business, indoor kitchen, have a pizza oven inside their house? What's the percentage of that? I mean, Yale would know that better than I would. But that's something that can happen 100% of the time outdoors, obviously, if there's a budget and there's room for it. And so now these people get to really, I would venture to say that in the future, particularly calling the outdoor kitchen now the outdoor room, is that the outdoor kitchens are going to be better than the indoor kitchens.
And Ryan, I know you've I've heard you talk about this. The outdoor is an extension of the home. You want to chime in there, and then Steve, I'll throw that to you.
Yeah, I think that, I think that Jeremy and Basil have touched on two of the important points. I think there's also a couple of facts that are important. One, that the outdoor kitchen is a very new phenomenon for the vast majority of people. So we get incredible data from our customers. Over 90% of clients are buying an outdoor kitchen for the first time in their lives. So historically, there was almost a synonymous term of an outdoor kitchen equals a barbecue or a grill. And now we're seeing, as my colleagues have shared, griddles, pizza ovens, power burners, outdoor dishwashers. You have almost limitless options for outdoor. And I think right now, the sweet spot is going to be when we discuss a kitchen with a client, that the designer's goal, and frankly, their responsibility, is to not just talk about what are you cooking today, but what is the vision or what is the inspiration. Maybe you never were someone interested in pizzas because 5 years ago it was very difficult to do that outside of going to a big word burning sort of structure that is challenging and very costly. Today, Hestan, Lynx, as great examples, both have comparatively affordable, easy to use pizza oven solutions. That's just one example. So I think we're at a very interesting point in time where, as Basil said, the homeowner and the design professional today is seeing the outdoor space as a room that can and should be activated, just like an indoor one. But we're also in a very, very steep learning curve because the design professionals are often catching up on what can and should be done outdoors. And that's a very fun time to be in our industry. And the learning has been accelerated as a result of COVID. So I think our job today in our industry is to educate and inspire, not just on what do we do today, but what is the realm of possible for tomorrow and the future. And that's the fun part of the whole thing.
And then Steve, I'll throw it to you.
Okay. For me, it's really about getting, talking to that person and getting them to understand what they want. I mean, all this stuff is really good, and I think Basil, you hit on it until you don't use it, right? I mean, I think Kamados. I mean, I've seen somebody cook jambalaya on a Kamado, but if you don't learn how to use it, it's going to be a very expensive looking egg in your backyard. And really, what I wanted to do in this webinar, one of the things I missed is, if you're planning it out, just remember you're cooking platters, so you want countertops. I forgot to mention that. Is to understand the different types and what it can do. I'd hate to see someone build something in only to find out it doesn't do what you want it to do. Like, if we go to Traeger's website, 70% of the people love it. 30% absolutely hate it because they were buying a pellet grill. Well, it's not a grill. So understanding the different types, how you'll use them, or how you might want to use them, really is essential in what you'll end up getting. And that's it. All of them can do different things very well, and some other things not so well. So you just got to figure out what your cooking style is and match that grill to it. You can take me off. These guys are better.
That's a great response.
So, next question for everybody. We're obviously based in New England. We have unique, distinct, I should say, seasons. And caring for the outdoor kitchen and appliances is different than other parts of the country. But the question is, how do outdoor appliances behave in the New England weather? And what can a homeowner do to increase the longevity of their outdoor appliances and kitchen? And we touched on that a little bit, but any specific types of use and care and maintenance that people need to consider in the harsher environment?
I don't mind jumping in there. I'm a person that spent about 53% of my life in Massachusetts, and the other part I've mostly in Southern California. So you got two polar opposites. And one thing I know about New Englanders is when the snow comes in, there's really nothing indoors that's going to replicate that grill. And I remember snow blowing my driveway and just continuing that snow blower into the backyard right to the grill to make sure things are going to happen. But when I got to that grill, it was always covered. And I think it's very logical to say that I think when the weather changes, particularly in New England and straight up into Canada, province of Ontario, province of Quebec, it's very similar weather, right? And I think this is where it comes back into maintenance, making sure that things are covered, making sure, as Jeremy mentioned, that the appropriate cleaning and polishing materials are being used. But if you use those materials and you cover that product and you're buying a high quality product like a Hestan or Urban Bonfire or Lynx, whatever it's going to be, it should be fine. But it's just like anything else. Anything you're going to let sit there dormant for a while, I mean, you really, even if it hasn't been in use for a while, you want to get back to that product and check it out. But there's no reason why any of the products for any of the companies on this webinar would not be able to stand up to anything. But I think Jeremy mentioned it too, but be careful when you're dealing with water, right? Ice makers are pulling water from somewhere. And if you don't have a closed off area that's actually entering heat to keep that thing above 32 degrees, let's face it, 32 degrees or 30 degrees is 30 degrees. That line's going to freeze, and that's going to cause you a big problem with that ice maker. And so, things like that, you just want to be cognizant of and make sure that you're paying attention to those elements. But really, the type of material, the quality of material, maintaining those things and keeping them covered, I think, is the essential things.
And Jeremy, would you go so far as to say things like a ice maker, refrigerator, those should, we have a distinct winter here in New England, should those be disconnected, removed during the winter? What would be your opinion?
Yeah, I would definitely agree that you want to get as much water out of the lines as you can. So disconnect that ice maker all the way, drain the water out of the lines, because as Basil mentioned, I mean, it's outside. So if it's freezing weather, it's going to freeze, which is going to cause you some issues in the future for sure. One thing that I would add on top of maintaining the product is also cleaning out those burners, burning off those briquettes before you store it for wintertime. Get all that grease off where you don't have to worry about mold and any type of mildew that maybe builds up on those briquettes or burners, grates, when you're not using it, when it is dormant. So cleaning out the ports of the burners when you get the opportunity. And, this is stuff that nobody enjoys doing, but it'll definitely make your life a whole lot easier whenever it comes time to uncover it and get started grilling again.
Ryan, anything to add there? And then I'll throw it to Steve.
The only piece I would add is I think this comes down, frankly, less to manufacturers and materials and more to consumer behavior and treatment of it and how it is so uniquely different from indoors. And what I mean by that is when you cook in an indoor range or oven, you're always cooking in some form of a vehicle, a pan, a cast. You're cooking in something. The food is not touching the actual structure of the range, completely opposite on grilling. And the behavior behind it is I cook my food, I put it on the platter, and I'm going in now to serve and eat. And the vast majority of users say, okay, I'm turning my grill off, and then I'm going inside. That gap is what causes the vast majority of challenge, meaning they're not going to cover it. They're going to go inside and forget to come out and cover. And if users were to just leave their burners on high for 10 minutes after cooking and cover it when it was cool, you would probably eliminate 50% of issues with grills in perpetuity just by those two simple actions. So that to me are that micro change in consumer behavior, which again is not easy to do, would be getting ahead of a massive amount of potential issues, service and maintenance things in the future, and will protect the lifespan of the products in a disproportionate way to the actual amount of time needed to do so.
And one thing to add to that too is, when the product's outside, you've got to think of rodents, and it's not a subject that we want to think about, but it is something that is necessary. If you leave food particles or excess grease, they're going to find a way to get to it. So it does require a little bit of maintenance on your end. A lot of times people think of grilling as the easiest route. You go out, you grill, and you're done. But scrape those grates, wipe out that drip tray every now and then.
Yeah, because the food that you're leaving behind is essentially inviting those things into that area, which is also going to invite them into the area of the wires that go to your unit as well. So exactly. don't help them get there.
It's funny. We're talking about ice makers, but every September I have I've got one of those sprinklers, and I've got to hunt this guy down, knowing that I've got to get him to get the water out of the system, or it could be a problem. I get an early frost. I mean, I've got to put a tracking device on this guy to get him to my house. But it's a pretty serious thing, especially with water. You don't want your pipes, especially water. And I totally agree. If you're going to grill, especially on some of these Hestans and Lynx and Kalamazoo and they're high powered, just keep it on, grab a brush, and get rid of it right then and there. So you don't have this. So you don't have these problems.
And if I'm not speaking out of turn, there's another point which we're all speaking about. Winter comes and we shut it down. Now maybe I'm a bit of a nut job, which is entirely possible, but I use my grill 12 months a year, and it's actually, if you're grilling outside, even when it's cold, it can be a very pleasant and beautiful sort of experience. So there's no rule that says come fall you have to shut your grill down and you can't use it until it's springtime again. There's a lot of enjoyment in winter, and it happens to be warm because you're standing by it. So I would always share that opinion with people, saying there's no limitation on usage.
Yeah.
You bring up another point, Ryan, that I mentioned or wanted to mention earlier too. The beginning of the question was, is it going to affect the performance cooking during winter times? And The answer short to that is slightly yes. I mean, if it's freezing temperatures outside and you're going to grill, it's going to take a little bit longer to preheat. So maybe instead of giving it 10 minutes, 15 minutes to preheat, maybe give it 20, 25 minutes.
Yep.
Allow those grates and the housing to get plenty hot enough to get to the temperatures you're looking for.
For sure.
Don't open the covers much either.
That's right.
That too.
We have a couple questions in the Q&A tab to dive into. And if, for our folks watching live, just throw in the questions in the Q&A tab for us. I'll dive into questions from Zachary. Cabinetry related, does waterproof particle board covered with plastic laminate seem like a viable option? Somebody want to take that one?
Ryan, I'll give it to you.
Sure. I mean, look, as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of materials. There's polyurethane, and we're seeing, with the growth in outdoor kitchen and outdoor space activation over the last few years, a lot of companies that have traditionally done indoor cabinetry manufacturing can use their machinery, CNC, for example, to cut things like plastic or polyurethane. And as I said earlier, there is no right or wrong. There are just some differences. One of the things about non-metal cabinetry is a requirement for insulation jackets to protect them in terms of flammability. That is not a requirement when you're dealing with a metal product, whether that's steel or aluminum, regardless of the brand. So that's a factor. And in most cases, you're dealing with a slightly more involved installation where you really do need a cabinet installer to look at those cuts and joints and making sure everything is sealed well. But there are a lot of brands and companies in the industry who are using plastic or polyurethane materials and producing very beautiful products. It's just a question of knowing what each material can and cannot do and adjusting the appliance selection and the surrounds for them so it's usable, enjoyable, and that it's safe. And the last point, I guess, we talk a lot about snow and ice and rain and water. Well, there's an equal cause and effect when you deal with sun and UV. And when you're dealing with things on plastic, certainly on a topical surface, those can fade or have color differentiations as a result of being in direct sun exposure. So that allows the person to either know they need to cover the area if they don't want that, or tolerate a certain level of fade over time, just like cars do. Cars fade at 1% a year, but it happens on pretty evenly, and the human eye can't even detect it. It's just something that homeowner needs to be aware of if they're thinking about usage over time.
Cool, thank you. Dive into a new question here. Questions about incorporating standalone equipment into the outdoor kitchen design. What's the best way to do that so you get the same look as the built-in style? Anybody want to take that one?
Well, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. And again, in terms of materials, just to glom on to Ryan there, outside presents more of a problem because you have weather that you don't get on the inside. But that said, you can build standalone built-in. I imagine you're talking about the grill and the cart and put in with stainless steel. It's a little bit harder to do, but I don't see an issue with that. I mean, as long as it's stainless steel and weathered, why couldn't you? It's just a little bit easier when you build it in. But I don't see an issue with as long as it looks good. Quite honestly.
Yeah.
Things to think about when doing that is the grill certified to be able to be built in that way? Sometimes it's for breathability of the grill, allowing enough oxygen to get in. Another thing too is the doors. So you have to allow the grill to sit proud enough so your doors can open all the way.
Yeah, and I think I think the one thing to think about that, and obviously it's clear that people are going to have freestanding product, right? There's going to be kitchens that's all that can be done. But if you think about it, going from an outdoor kitchen to freestanding appliances or whatever they're going to be, you got to remember that you got to be able to get power and gas to those units. So now you could be talking about multiple hookup locations, which could be extremely costly. But I would say the nice thing about it is that you get to move those items around. You know, once you plant the area, you're going to have a kitchen. I mean, it's pretty permanent. If you've got freestanding products, the grill's going to be better over here. Or I've realized that the prevailing wind is coming this way. I need to move the grill that way to make sure that I can vent properly. So I think there's plenty of beautiful stuff out there right now. I mean, even on our own line, we offer 2 different types of freestanding products, and one of them, probably not a great example is think of like a BMW, and BMW has an M series, and then they have a regular 5 series, let's say. But we offer an M series, and it's for people that really want to take that freestanding look to a different level, because they don't have the room for a kitchen, or like Steve said, is whether it's just an island, or it's U-shaped, or it's L-shaped, you don't have the space. Living in Southern California, and I'm lucky enough to live close to the water, but that means that your backyards are almost dried up. I mean, I open up my back door, take 10 steps, and bang my head on the back wall. You got to be careful. So you want to use that space correctly. And, being in this space myself, my whole backyard, to be honest, it's all freestanding product. I have a double beer tap. I have a couple Kamados, and I have a Hestan grill. And I got, a couple of wine barrels with a decked on top of it. That's my backyard. And people come out and say, it looks beautiful. But keep in mind the cost of the gas lines, getting power to those areas. And if you're going to have multiple products, not just a beautiful freestanding grill, keep in mind you're going to have to get power and gas to those units.
Or go LP.
I would add,
or go LP, exactly.
I would add it comes down also a little bit to usage and rituals of the homeowner. And what I mean by that is over 85% of the kitchens that we design end up being within 15 feet of the indoor kitchen. And Steve, you alluded to that at the beginning of your presentation of if you're that close, that can inform the amount of appliance that is needed in the outdoors. But if you use the example, there are plenty of people who will have a beautiful outdoor kitchen with refrigeration, grill, cider, power burner example, but the pool is 30 yards away and they want a vehicle to do grilled cheeses and hot dogs for the kids, for example. That's where a freestanding product like an Evo, as an example for Middleby, is maybe doesn't belong in the kitchen, but can be a satellite product. Or we've mentioned Kamado a couple of times. You mentioned smoke infiltration. Kamado, in the vast majority of cases, is producing smoke for several to many hours, just by the virtue of how maybe someone doesn't want that right at the site of the indoor kitchen, but if something is in a cart or can be wheeled, and being all charcoal, it doesn't require gas or electric, can be wheeled to another part of the deck where you can smoke a brisket for 12 hours with no smoke effect. So I think it comes down to ritual and usage behavior of the homeowner, and sort of figuring out the right pieces and products and their locations. It doesn't have to all be centralized to the kitchen. Kitchen can be a living, moving organism that really, it answers the usage requests or desires of the homeowner more than a fixed physical space.
Thanks, guys. I have a question around marine grade steel. That came up earlier in the conversation. The question is marine grade necessary when you have a grill located next to a pool? But maybe we should also maybe touch on what is the difference between that marine grade and different types of steel you might see on freestanding types of outdoor appliances. And anybody want to jump into that one?
Sure. I would say that, it really depends on the maintenance. I mean, 304, 316, 201, all the great stainless steels that are out there, if they're not maintained, can potentially have issues. So you have to take the time every now and then to wipe it off and to change the oil like you would in your car. So wiping it off, getting any of those ocean air elements or the humidity that issues that can be caused to steel, maintaining it with an oily polish every now and then. But usually all 304, 316s, if maintained, are great steels.
I
I
agree.
would add, frankly, the difference, just for the person asking the question, is a function of nickel content in the steel itself. That really is the difference between a 304 and a 316. But in the spirit of transparency, getting marine grade steel for appliance or cabinetry does not negate the need for maintenance. It's not like if I get marine grade grill, fridge, cabinetry, I don't have to maintain it. You have to maintain it at the same sort of level. It just has more anti-corrosion effects over time. It's not like you can just leave it and you're not going to see salt and pitting and that type of stuff on marine grade. That is not the case at all. It's more of a longevity play than it is a no maintenance one. So just want to clarify that. Very important.
And I agree that as well. I mean, I think a 304 is pretty much, going to stand up to anything. The times that I've seen, and since I've been in the business, where there's been trouble, is where there's a massive, I don't know what you call it, like a density of salt, and that means you're probably on the west or east coast, and it's considerable. And what happens is, to Jeremy's point, what happens is that salt, especially in the moisture and stuff like that, which is another bad combination, is going to settle somewhere. And eventually, a lot of times when you see rusting, even when you see, let's say, rusting inside of a dishwasher, and you say, how is this possible? This is 18.8 surgical stainless steel. How is it possible? Well, a lot of cases, it's not the tub. It's the metal particles coming in contact that's creating that corrosion. And the same thing's happening outdoor. We've got that salt interacting. You've got to wash this stuff off. I mean, think about it. Why would somebody create a boat that didn't say enough to salt, right? So what do you see people do when they come in with the boat? First thing they do, they hose it all off. They hose a boat that's in the ocean off. Why is that? That's because no matter what, to Ryan's point, no matter what those materials are made out of, you give salt enough time to work on something, it'll start to corrode and start to pit, and that's a challenge. And in fact, when we first launched our first grill, we put all kinds of different materials into salt spray chambers. That's happened outside the buildings. It was expensive to do. And we wanted to see, once and for all, what would do the best in salt chamber. And 304 did fantastic. And we were developing the burner at the time, and one of the materials came back that we ended up using on our burner was 321. And why did it do better? Higher titanium, and it had a higher nickel content. But it's much more expensive. I mean, if you look at the comparison between 316 and 304 costs, it's massive. It's not 5%. It's a lot. But I think you can get around all that by keeping up with your products. Just like taking care of your body. Junk in, junk out. Taking care of yourself, staying in shape, eating right, maintaining yourself. Maybe take a shower every once in a while. Probably work out.
I think we're looking off base here, but I will say that we had a marine grade grill at Yale, and we're right off the ocean here, and it did develop some rusting only because I'm very sure that nobody maintained it. But it wasn't a lot. What's the industry term? Teabagging. There's like rust coming off all the, and on all these grills, yeah, the grill might be, but the knobs sure aren't, right? Not every fitting is going to be marine grade, but you get a better grill, and you got to wipe it down every once in a while. Even the best grill, the marine grade Kalamazoo will rust if you're not going to take care of it.
We have a few minutes left here, and we have a question around cost, something else we didn't talk about that. too specifically yet, but like any project, there's going to be a large range around cost. And I guess the question to everybody would be, what, maybe we talk about different levels. Is there a kind of an entry level outdoor kitchen? What would that include? And what might you find at more advanced levels? Does anybody want to take that first?
I'm happy to. I think the things that are going to affect cost are going to be obviously the size of the kitchen is going to be the biggest factor, and the number and the quality of appliance brand and product that is going into that kitchen. So as an example, if you're building a 10-foot kitchen that has a 36-inch grill, as an example, you can fill that space with a $1,500 grill. You can fill that space with a $12,000 grill. That's going to have a dramatic effect on your per linear foot, your overall price. So those are going to be big ones. The one item that is often not calculated at the forefront is labor. And that's a big one. When you look at the more, what I call traditional ways of building a kitchen, whether it's a frame and you're finishing it with a flame retardant material, stucco, stone, brick, wood, whatever your finishing material, how much labor is required for that? That's often not calculated when customers are thinking about a traditional outdoor kitchen. They're being told, here's the price of the grill, access doors, those types of things. But what's the labor component to put it all together? When you get into ideas of cabinetry, whatever the brand, whatever the material you use, more of an investment at face value, but much lower labor cost to get it all in. So I think it's when you look at total project cost, but in the vast majority of cases, it's going to come in substantially lower than indoors on a per linear foot basis.
Yeah, I think Steve, we all kind of mentioned a little bit of it, but Steve did his presentation as well. It all comes down to the plan, right? And it's nice that we want the grill to be here, and we want the power burn to be there, and the pizza oven to be over there. But what type of cabinets is it going to go in? Is it going to be a freestanding area? What type of materials are we going to use in the cabinets? Do we have any power, water, drainage there? Do we have to remove a structure? Because I think one thing I found a lot of times is, you'll walk into a backyard and you see this beautiful kitchen, and then you'll basically see an appliance, as you can call it, outdoor stuff appliances. You'll see an appliance that doesn't really fit with the rest of the stuff. So what happened? No, it went over budget. It went over budget. So people, for me, it's like, make sure everything's on the table. And in fact, our company was started by commercial products, and we had these chefs that wanted to design these kitchens. All that they would do is they would draw it out. They would sketch it out on a piece of paper. They would hand it to us, and we'd through it through this engineering SolidWorks and make it beautiful and to dimensions and everything. But they got that stuff on the table, and that's just proper planning, making sure you're evaluating all the costs that you're going to get hit with. I think it's extremely important, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It can just be a pencil and a piece of paper.
And to circle it all back, it really depends on what features are important to you. So if you're fine with a grill that is just all briquettes all the way across, that's you're going to save money there. If you want to do it with all infrared burners or one infrared burner and rotisserie, all of the bells and whistles that you can get on a grill, it's going to drive the cost up. So it's really what's important to you and your cooking style.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Just out of curiosity, Basil, how much is that stainless steel island?
With all the appliances in it?
No, just the stainless steel island. How much is that?
You're probably talking about $15,000 at retail.
$15,000.
Yeah.
What's a bank of cabinets for you, Ryan? Just like an island.
A bank of cabinets for us is going to be about $1,000 a linear foot.
So figure What's the average? What's the average kitchen? budget?
Average, 80% of kitchens fall in the 10 to 12 foot range. So
That's 10.
let's call it $10,000 to $12,000 for the cabinetry, which is your structure and everything to hold the appliance and everything else.
Now, Jeremy, you sell yours what? Piecemeal, right? Where it's all stainless steel cabinets?
Well, not yet. So you were at KBIS clearly, so you got to see.
No,
the
I
new-
wasn't. My flight got canceled.
Okay, well, yeah. So we're introducing them in 2025, and they're roughly going to be about 1,800 a linear foot. So
Right,
they're going to
okay.
be a little
So
more expensive.
here's what we have. It's going to cost to get it done right. And the reason why we have these guys on the panel is because in 10 years, you're not going to have a rusty thing with the door hanging out. Figure it's going to be, if you want Lynx quality appliances or Hestan quality appliances, refrigerator, grill, maybe a few other things, you're looking at for something really, really good. For like the average kitchen, 10 foot, you're looking what, 20,000? For top quality pro grill, side burners. Okay, and
Yeah, it's slightly north of that, probably.
probably
20,000 plus or minus 15% would at retail would encompass more than 75% of the kitchens that we do.
Yep.
You're right. That's your sweet spot. But an important note, Steve, on cabinetry, and I saw Lynx's, it's absolutely stunning, or Hestan's commercial suite. The way to think about this at the consumer level is also the fact that this is furniture. This is not staying, this can be moved. If someone is making that kind of investment and they choose to move homes, that investment can carry forward with them. And that's a very important distinction between a traditional frame build that cannot do the same. So if someone is worried or thinking about, I'm making a spend, but I might move across the country next year, just like you would move an outdoor sectional or an outdoor table on your moving truck, you can do exactly the same thing with any one of these Lynx, Hestan, or Urban Bonfire offerings. And that's an important distinction when talking to the homeowner. It's an investment that they can move with them should they need to.
Interesting. But that's pretty
Also,
much what it's going to cost. So figure it's 20,000 plus or minus 15%. Unless, if you're going Weber style, then you can drop it another 30%. Easy.
Sounds about
Okay.
right.
All right. That's how much it costs, I guess. All right, Pat, anything else? You're running the show. Thank God.
I think that's a great way. I think that's a great spot to end today. Lots of great questions, really great insight from our panel here. And like we mentioned earlier, we'll be sharing this recording and posting this to our YouTube channel. So with that, thank you for tuning in today, and have a great day.